Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we'll talk about switching themes with style components and Redux. Let's get started. Okay, we're starting with a blank project here. Let's create a home screen that we can work with. A new folder, put it in the screens folder. Then new file, and we'll call it homescreen.js. We'll just put some basic scaffolding in. We'll save it. Let's go back to app.js. And then we'll import it. Import home screen from screens home screen. Oops, screens. Instead of the default layout, we'll just put our home screen in here. We can get rid of the styles object, and we can get rid of all the imports from React Native. Back in our home screen, let's pull in the styled components package. So we'll open our terminal, npm install styled components. Great, now we've got that installed. Now I'll put together just a little layout for us, and then we'll come back and talk about it. While you're watching, please make sure you like the video, and if you're new here, please subscribe for more videos like this. Okay, so now we've got a very simple layout here. We'll want to make sure we import styled from styled components. We have a parent container that'll take up the entire height of the screen, align everything in the center, and then we give it a background color of white. We have a container for the text, just so that we can add a border around it, with a color of black, a little bit of padding, and a border radius. And then we've got a button that we can click to be able to change the theme. We'll change from dark to light mode, where we give it a background color, some margin around it, some padding, and a border radius. And then the text inside, we just give it a font size, font weight, and a color of white. Next up, we're going to want to create a file that will contain all of our theme colors. So we'll create a new file. We'll just call it theme.js. And we're just going to have two themes. We'll have a dark theme and a light theme. So we'll export an object, and we'll call it dark theme. And we'll do the same with the light theme. So we'll give each one a mode property. Call this one dark, and this one light. And then we'll want to fill in all of our colors. So for this example, we're going to have a background color, a text color, a button color, the button text color, and then the status bar style, which will control whether this is light or dark. In our dark theme, we have a dark background color, white text, blue button, and then white text on the button. And then we want to have a white status bar. In the light theme, our background color is white. The text color is a dark gray. The button color is a purple. The text on that button is white. And then we set the status bar to default. Now that we've got our layout and our themes set up, let's pull in all the packages that we need for Redux. So we'll open our terminal, npm install. We need 3. We need Redux, we need React Redux, and we need Redux Thunk. Let's go ahead and install this. In Redux, the entire state is represented as a single JavaScript object. Think of it as read-only, because we can't make changes directly to the state. This is where actions come in. Think of actions as like an event. Anytime somebody presses a button, saves a setting, anything like that. So let's create an action to handle our theme switching. Close the terminal. We'll create a new folder called Redux. And in that folder, we'll create a new file. We'll call it theme actions. Actions have one requirement. They need a type property to describe how the state should change. So we'll call ours switch theme. So we'll export a constant, call it switch theme. We'll equal that to the string switch theme. So to actually change the theme, we need to accept in a parameter, which will be the theme that we want to switch to. And then we need to dispatch it. So we'll create our action here. Export constant, switch theme. We'll accept in the theme we want to switch to. And now we need to return a dispatch. We'll do return, dispatch. Then we'll call the dispatch method. And we'll pass in an object to it. The type, which is what we declared above, switch theme. And then the theme that we want to switch to. So this action defines what we want to do. We'll now need to set up a reducer to actually mutate the state. So we'll create a new file in the Redux folder. We'll call it theme reducer. And now the reducer will take the initial state or the current state of the app along with the action that we want to call, and it'll change the state. So initially we'd like to have the light theme visible. So we'll import that first. We'll import it from theme.js. Remember, that's this object. Next, we need to import the action that we want to call. So we'll import switch theme from actions, or theme actions, excuse me. And remember, that's this method right here. So next, we'll want to set up the initial state. We'll do const initial state. It's equal to an object. Well, we'll have a theme, and we'll pass in the light theme. Now we can set up the reducer, so const theme reducer, and it'll accept in 2 parameters, the state and the action. So for our state, we want to set it initially to the initial state. And then the action that we want to complete. Now we want to figure out what action that we're taking. So we'll switch between them. Switch action dot type, and the type is what we have here. It's what we defined as switch theme. So for the case of switch theme, we want to return whatever theme was passed into the action. So we'll return theme and action.theme. If you had any other actions on your theme, you'd define them here in another case statement. But we don't, so we'll just return a default one in case there isn't one. And then we'll just return the default state. Now let's export the theme reducer. And let me spell initial state correctly. Now we need to create our store. So let's head back over to app.js and let's start importing a few things. First, we need to import the provider, which comes from React Redux. Next, we need to import 3 things from Redux itself. We need the create store, apply middleware, and combine reducers. Then let's import Thunk. And Thunk allows you to apply middleware asynchronously. Lastly, we need our theme reducer. So we'll import theme reducer from Redux, theme reducer. Oops, looks like I have a space in there. Okay, we'll save that. Now creating our store is pretty simple. We'll store it in a variable called store. We call the create store method. We pass it combine reducers. And in that, we'll put our theme reducer. And the second parameter is apply middleware, where we pass in Thunk. To give our app access to the store, we have to wrap the entire thing in a provider. So instead of just returning the home screen, we'll wrap home screen in a provider and then pass it in the store. Now our entire app has access to the store. So let's make use of the theme actions in the store in our home screen. First, we're going to need to import a few things. From style components, we're going to need the theme provider. And to access the state, we're going to need to import the use selector and use dispatch methods from React Redux. Use selector will allow us to access the state, and then use dispatch will allow us to dispatch actions. We also need to import the actions that we plan on using. So import switch theme from Redux theme actions. And lastly, we need to import the actual themes themselves. So we'll import light theme and dark theme from our theme file. Now let's get access to our theme and our dispatch. So for theme, we'll create a variable theme, which is equal to the use selector method. Get the state, and we'll return the state.themeReducer.theme. Now this comes from our theme reducer file in our theme reducer method, theme right here. Back in our home screen, let's get access to the dispatch. So we'll call it dispatch, which is equal to use dispatch. Let's update our button to be able to actually switch themes. We want to check whether if it's in the light theme, then we'll switch it to the dark theme and vice versa. So in this case, we'll actually need two buttons. Let's check whether or not we are in the light theme. We'll say theme.mode is equal to light. And remember, in our theme objects, we set up a mode property. And if it is light, then we'll return the first button. Otherwise, we'll create a second button. Whoops. That'll say change to light theme. When we click the button, we want to call dispatch with the switch theme method, and then we want to pass it in which theme we want to switch to. In this case, we want to switch to the dark theme. And we'll just copy this, paste it onto our second button, and we'll change it to light theme. So now when we press the button, we should see it switch from dark theme to light theme. Right here. Change the light theme, change the dark theme. Now, of course, we still need to change all the colors based on what theme we're currently in. And that's where style components come into play. You can see we imported the theme provider from style components up here. Now let's wrap the entire component in that theme provider component. And the only thing that we need to pass into this theme provider is the theme itself. So we'll say theme is equal to theme. So eventually what should be passed in here in this theme object is one of these objects. This theme object will now be available to any styled component you have. So now we just need to change all the colors that we explicitly set. So let's first change the background color in our container. We do that by $, curly braces, and we get the props variable passed in. And now we want to get our primary background color. So we want to get this color for each one. So we'll say props.theme.primary background color. Now let's change the themes and see if it works. And it does. So let's do that for the rest of the colors. We'll just copy this. For our border color, we'll just use the text color in this case. That's this outline. You can see now it changes from dark to white. In our text, we want to change that color to the primary text color as well. So now the text will change. And now in our button, we'll change that to the primary button color. So it should change from blue to purple. And finally, we'll do that for the button text. Button text color. Now in our case, it's white in both instances. Now the one thing you may notice is that the status bar is not changing colors. It's always just set to the default, and that won't look very good if it's on a dark background. So let's change that now. We need to import the status bar from React Native. We'll add it in above the container. And now the bar style property is what changes the color. Remember, back in theme, we set the status bar style to be light content when it's on a dark background and default when it's on a light background. So all we need to do is pass in theme, which we're getting from right here, .status bar style. And close out that component. And now you can see that on the dark background, we have a light status bar, and vice versa. So that's about it for this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you would like the video, I'd really appreciate that. It helps me out quite a bit. The source code, as always, is available on my Patreon. The link is in the description. And I'll see you guys back in the next video.